everyone, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. So Coco Creates. So I'm Zoe and this is Coco. My pronouns are she, her. Oh, you're going to sit up there, thank you. And this is going to be sort of a partial January update, but also my 2025 plans video that I've been meaning to do for like 2 weeks and now have not done it yet, and I'm doing it now. So on about the 15th of January, so halfway. So I've got a couple of weeks of progress that I will show you as well. So we'll start with my January progress that I've worked on so far, and then we'll move on to my 2025 plans from there. So I think my New Year's resolution is going to be to stop using the word "so" as a filler word. But I've been using my my new journal, diary, stitching journal. Yeah, it'd be a journal, wouldn't it? Start of the month, so obviously the first couple of days, if you did watch my previous video, I had worked on my skulls salve for the first couple of days of January. But as of the 3rd of January, I did start my first new start. Now, I was supposed to be having my New Year new start on New Year's, but I know I mentioned in my previous video I hadn't actually ordered the stuff I needed for it. So I got it in my head that I'd all sorted, and then it wasn't until I got it out that I was like, oh, I just thought about sorting it out and never actually did it. But it did come, so I did start it. But what I did on the 3rd of January was I had another New Year new start. I'm blaming this one on Dobby because she started this as part of her Starterpalooza. And this is a Carolyn Manning Designs, and this is avocado toast. And I will find it. I am going to cut this giant piece of fabric down and serge the edges at some point. But here we go. Here was my start. So I have started right in the middle. I know Dobby has started in one corner and is working down. But I thought, well, this is quite geometric, and why not? Let's have a middle start. I'm so used to having, you know, edge starts with everything else. Let's do something new. So this is on a 32 count. I just folded it all up there, didn't I, before checking. It is on, yeah, a 32 count cloud brown from Fabric Flair, bought from Sew It All. And there is my start. So yeah, so I've got my needle minder from Emily, Crafty Emily needle minder. So that is Scottish Wildcat. It's one of her stamp collections, so it's a stamp that she's then resined and put on. But yeah, so this was, did I actually add up the number of stitches I did? No, because that would mean I was organised. Let's see, I did 1,403, there we go, 1,403 stitches into that. So yeah, this is really nice to do. It's really sort of easy to do, like not mindless, but sort of because it's very geometric. It's, you know, each triangle, I know each triangle starts with, you know, it goes sort of 1, 3, 5, 7, you know, increases and then decreases, and they're all the same size, and I can just sort of repeat all the way around. So I'm sort of picking up a colour and then doing the round of the mandala, and then picking the next colour and sort of going round. So I think my next colour I'm going to be filling in is sort of these 2 squares here, which will be the same all the way around, and then this square will be again, you know, so it's just really nice to kind of pick a colour and work it round. So it was quite fast to stitch because yeah, I wasn't having to kind of keep checking on the pattern. So yeah, I did really enjoy this one. Might have to buy another one of hers in the future to work on, but yes, but we'll just stick with one for now. I'm not going to get too carried away. So yeah, oh, where's my bag gone? There it is. And I'm also using one of Emily's Floss things that she's got, so which almost had the right number of holes, and I've just sort of braided the threads up there while I'm not using them. But yeah, so that is, oh, and I'm using what they're called, wool broderie floss from that I ordered from Blushing Pink Stitches, so Lindsay. So that was my first piece of the year, so I did a couple of days on that, and then I picked up my Animal Kingdom. It's my supersized one, so I will put pictures in of that one here, and I've done 2,408 stitches on this one. So my goal for this month is 4,000 stitches, so I sort of did, I'm going to split it in half like I have been on some other goals, to do a couple of thousand, then do something else, and then go do the other couple of thousand. That's my aim. So hopefully I've finished showing the pictures now that I've waffled on. And then my stuff came for my New Year New Start, so obviously I then had to start it. So my New Year New Start is Red Christmas. So this is a Jardin Privé, and I'm doing the green colourway there. I saw it kitted up, stitched up in green as the model piece at the Knit and Stitch show, and that was sort of the colourway that I really fell in love with, which uses these 4 colours. So the 730s range, so 730, 732, 733 and 734, which don't really look green. They're a lot more olivey, yellowy greens, but they do go together really nice for a Christmas design. So yeah, so with this being my New Year piece, I am hoping to have it done within the year. Now, conveniently, the chart is actually across 6 pages, so that meant that to get it done in Coco. So I've got my Animal Kingdom piece, because I'm going to be working on it again. Instead of putting it back here, I've lent it there, and Coco decided now was the opportune moment to go and start playing with it. Excuse you. Anyway, what was I even saying? 6 pages, yes. Okay, so conveniently enough, 6 goes into 12 months really easily, so it meant I had to do 1 page every 2 months. Well, that meant half a page a month. Now, in my head, I was like, half a page a month, that's easy. So I want to show you, this is a page of stitching. It's about half a page stitching. That is a lot of stitching. It is a lot more than what I'd thought in my head. I was like, oh, it'll be like 1,000 stitches a month. That's fine. So far, I have put in what... see, again, I didn't add it up, because why would I add things up? Why would I be organised? What are we on? 7 plus 9. So I've put in 1,600 stitches, and I'm still not done. So here is my progress. I still have this. No, I want to show you on the red because it's a bit bigger. I still have this whole motif to do and this deer to do to get to the half a page. So still have sort of, yeah, this here and a little bit more down this border. So it's probably going to be maybe 3,000 stitches, maybe a bit more by the time I finish. So slightly more than I'd planned, but you know, I do hope that I will have it done. So the design is 260 square, yes, and each page is 100 stitches down. Coco, why are you being such a nuisance? Like, she's the most well-behaved cat until I start filming, and the minute I start filming, she's touching things, she's climbing on things, she's eating things. I'm like, you're doing this on purpose, I swear. Like, what is my life? Like, anyway, right, page 100 stitches, which means the last page is only 60 stitches. So the last 2 pages are a lot smaller. So I thought, well, you know, at least that'll give sort of me 4 months of my 12 that are only going to be about half as much stitching. So my aim is to sort of start working down, so that then I can choose whether I want to do a full half page for the month or a smaller half page for the month. So yeah, my February is going to be this page here, and then that'll give me March, where I can choose either a full half, you know, a full bit, or kind of a half section. and then going forward I'll at least be able to choose month to month. If I'm a bit too busy, I can think that my goal is just a smaller page. So, and again, because that's how it's done on the paper copy, it means it's really easy for me to just pick it up without having to physically draw any lines in or make any marks. But yeah, I'm enjoying this. So this is on a white 40 count piece of Zweigart, and I'm doing it 1 strand over 2 threads. But yeah, like I said, really enjoying this one. There's my Agnes needleminder, my little turtle. But yeah, so really enjoying this. It's kind of it's a little bit Quakery, but not overly Quakery. So there is a bit of geometricness to it, which is quite nice to get into. You know, you just, you know, it's like symmetrical, but then other bits are sort of different as you go along. So I did actually make a mistake going along this top bit. This section here, I actually went one too many, and it wasn't until I'd completed that section and got onto the next bit, and then I sort of looked at it and I'm like, wait, this line does not line up anymore. So I had to unpick it up and do it again. But you know, at least I caught it then instead of like the rest of the page along. So you know, which was good. But yeah, so that is my stitching progress for the start of this month. But yeah, that's all I've done so for this half. But on to my plans. So this will be my plans sort of for the rest of the month, but also my like full year plans. So as a lot of my existing viewers know, I use a Whippopoly board. So I have made my new Whippopoly board, and I've actually made it onto a piece of board, bit of cardboard, so that I can, you know, fold it up, store it, get it out, rather than it being a piece of paper that's stuck to my wall that was kind of really inconvenient to use. I do need to see if I can use a magnet, because I was using a magnet as my counter. I haven't worked out if I've got a magnet strong enough to like go through both. I might have to actually keep a physical note of where I am, so that then every time I roll I can get it out and put my counter back in the spot. I don't know. Depends how strong some of the magnets I've got. I might have to go through my stash of needle minders, find a strong one. But anyway, my Whippopoly board. I'm going to go through this in a bit more detail. I'll probably flip the camera around and actually walk around it. I know a lot of people are doing a version of Monopoly for their game, and this is going to be my 4th year doing this. And I do remember, so this is the same style board that I've always used. I just change the places on it. But I remember the first time I do it and I got it out and was like, this is really complicated. I'm not going to try and explain it. We're just going to go for it and hope for the best, you know, and see as we go along. I'm sorry, Coco is throwing things on the floor again, please hold. But yes, I remember the first time being like, oh, this, because there were so many different rules and things that even I hadn't got in my head, that I was just like, we're going to go for it and I'll explain it as we go and we'll hope for the best. Now, I've been watching a few other people's, and a few of the people's are really complicated. Mine actually seems the easiest board now. And that's the thing against other people. Like, I find it really fun listening to all their side games and rules and how they're doing it. And I have stolen a few ideas from other people. But, you know, mine seems to be one of the easiest ones now, somehow, which is nice, I suppose. Nice and simple. But anyway, I'm going to insert a separate video of me going through this, just because it's very difficult for me to try and do it as I go. You can see my printer, because obviously I print this out in sections because I don't have a giant printer, and you can see as it got to the end of this page it suddenly decided to do blue instead of the rest. So all these 3 match, and then like this one it just gave up with the colour, and you can see it's like a line where my printer was just like, oh no, can't do green anymore, sorry. Like, so but yeah, so I will show you that one in a second. But also another thing that I'm doing, and it was watching Dobby that actually got me into this one. I think did I mention it in my last video? So this is what I do. I can't remember if I just thought about it or if I actually did the thing. But basically Dobby was saying that she's going to do Whippopoly, but instead of setting 24 different whips as her board, she had sort of a variety of different goals, whether it was stitch on a theme or get someone, her boyfriend, to decide, or, you know, pick a whip, that sort of thing. and it suddenly clicked in my head that I was like, I don't have to put 24 whips on. Like, why did no one tell me that? Like, why didn't I think of that? So I thought I would pick my 3 goal pieces for this year, which is Bath Time Haid, my Animal Kingdom Haid, and my Shiny Suns Baby Dragons that I want to get done. I thought, and I'll plot out how many stitches I want to do and see, can I divide that into 24 pieces? And I added it up, and it meant that I would need to stitch 4,000 pieces, no, 4,000 stitches per month on each square. And obviously each month you pick, or you don't pick, Jessie picks 2 squares. So that would mean 8,000 stitches a month. Now, across the year, I think that did add up to just over 100,000 stitches, which was pretty much all of my stitching from last year. So I was like, that's a big goal, because that means I've got to do the exact same amount of stitching I did last year, but only on those 3 pieces, and then do other stitching as well. So, you know, we'll see how we get on. But anyway, I've drawn up mine. It's very boring. There's my Wopopoly board. So that's my whips list. Here's my Wopopoly board, and I basically used a random number generator to sort of tell me which boxes to put my 3 whips in. It didn't seem very random. I've pretty much got my Animal Kingdom in all of the first 10, and then sort of dragons for the next chunk, and then bath time for the last bit. So it wasn't as random as I had planned, but I thought, well, the numbers are being drawn at random, so it probably doesn't really matter. But did I write down how many I've got? Yes, so I picked, what was it? Yes, so there's 9 squares for my Animal Kingdom, 8 squares for my 3 baby dragons, and then 7 squares for my bath time. And then each square is 4,000 stitches. So that means 2 numbers that will get drawn. So this month the 2 numbers were 11 and 20. Did I mark them on here? No, I did not. 11 and 20, which was my Animal Kingdom and my dragons. So I've got chew marks in the back of that diary from a certain little somebody. But yes, so that's my goals. And achieving those goals sort of ties in with the 3rd part of my New Year plan, which is for my starts. So last year I had a big goal on wanting to reduce my number of whips, which I did manage to do. So my goal was that I had to finish 2 items before I could start 1. And with my finish of my skulls that I just got on this year, I did achieve that. So for every start I had 2 finishes. Whereas this year, I thought as I was going through my whips that I have, pretty much all of them are either big, very big, or still have a lot of progress needed. Nothing's close to a finish. Nothing is even within a few thousand stitches of a finish. You know, everything's got probably at least, you know, a good sort of 10,000 stitches on left to go. The point being, nothing's near a finish. So I couldn't carry on with my 2 finishes for a start, because I figured I might only get 2 finishes this year, but I want to start a lot more than 2 things. You know, a lot more than 1 thing to go with my 2 finishes, sorry. So I thought, okay, what we'll do is I'm going to count I already count my stitches. I'm going to use those to buy a new start. So I know I already had a couple of new starts scheduled, which I'm not counting in that. So one was my Christmas piece, my Red Christmas that I started, my New Year new start, and then my avocado toast. I'm not counting either, because I don't really have a reason why I'm not counting it, only that they're my rules and I can bend them if I like, and I'm going to do that. So but basically I'm going to use my stitches to get me my new starts. And I did talk this over with Dobby when we got to meet up, and was like, this is what I'm thinking, does that make sense? And she was like, yeah, that makes sense. So hopefully now when I say it out loud, it still makes sense. So that's what we're going with. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Basically, I'm not going to be decreasing my number of whips, but I want to decrease my number of stitches that I have left to do on the whips, if that makes sense. So in order to do that, I am going to add up my stitches that I do each month and then bank that number of stitches, and I can half that and use that to buy a new start. Okay, so if I was to do 10,000 stitches, I divide that by 2, so that takes me down to 5,000, and then I can have a new start that has 5,000 stitches or less in it. So most smalls are, or most small pieces that I had started are about the 4,000 stitch mark. So I was thinking that's about right for, you know, and then anything smaller than that would obviously have less than 4,000, which is good. Now, I don't know the exact number of a lot of the things I'm due to start unless either the pattern says how many stitches there is, or I can put it in Pattern Keeper and Pattern Keeper tells me how many stitches there is. But I can kind of guesstimate sort of how many stitches, like you know, if you look at a piece and it's full coverage, you can just add up. You know, so that's very easy. And then if you look at a piece and you can sort of think, well, okay, there's stitches in about half of the squares, so that'll be half of what the full coverage that'll be. And then there are a few that are a bit less than that again, that you can kind of think, okay, well, you know, I'll do a little bit less than half. So that's what I'm going with. I'm just kind of guesstimating the number of stitches by that, unless I actually have the number written down. And that is the figure I'm going to be using. So there's a few smalls that I do want to do this year. So I bought Lola Crow's Halloween pack, Christmas pack, not Halloween. Not this year just gone, but the year before. So her sort of spooky, you know, kind of Christmas decorations. So I thought I'd like to do those. And I know they're all very small. And there's a few other smalls that I've added into I've got a little folder on my Google Drive that I've added in a few little smalls to do. And then there's a few that are slightly bigger as well that I know I'm going to have to sort of save up, you know, a couple of months worth of stitches to get them. But that's how I'm going to allow myself my new starts, is I've got to sort of bank, you know, the right amount of stitches. But the goal would be then at the end of the year, I may have a higher number of whips, but the actual number of stitches I've got left to do to get everything done will be lower. So I will have still made progress on condensing what I've got. But then hopefully if I have got a bunch of smaller new starts, then going into like 2026, I can probably have another, you know, finish 2 things for one start year and maybe alternate like that. That's my theory. But we're not trying to think too far ahead. But yeah, so that's what I'm going with. And as one bonus for that, I've set myself on my Wipopoly board. If I get a line or a column, I get to bank extra stitches for completing it, because that means I've done my 4,000 for all of these. So I will have already counted those stitches as my general month-to-month number of stitches. But that's something like, it'll be 20,000 stitches for a whole row. So I would have already banked half of that, which is 10,000. If I complete the whole row, I'm allowing myself an extra 5,000 on top for that. So obviously I won't start completing rows until much later in the year. You know, because I don't think we're going to be I don't think we're going to be lucky enough that Jessie's numbers would call like box 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 all in a row. But it does mean towards the end of the year I will get some extra stitches to be banking, if I manage to keep up with my, you know, these 4,000s. You touching things again? Yes, I thought he was. Come on then. Right, help. There we go. But yeah, so towards like Halloween, when I might have a Halloweeny start, and sort of the end of the year where I might have a couple of sales or things coming up, you know, I've got a few extra stitches banked that I can trade in to start those. So that is my goal for them. But obviously it would mean that I have to do my 4,000 stitches every month. I'm not going to be rolling that over either. So if I don't get to my 4,000 stitches, I don't get to it. I'm not going to start rolling that into the next month and think, well, next month I need to do 5,000 stitches, because if I can't do 4 in a month, I'm not going to be able to do 5 in a month, you know. So yeah, so if I don't get it, I don't get it. That's going to be that one. There's not going to be any rolling over. Just I don't have time to be worrying about that, especially if, you know, if then I don't get 5, so I have to roll another couple of thousand over into that, and now I'm up to like 6 or 7,000 for just one, and plus the other whip, which is the 4. Now, no. So yeah, no rollovers, no catch-ups for that one. But yeah, so plans for month to month is going to be the start of the week. So on Monday I will get out one of my whip go pieces and do my 2,000 stitches, because obviously there's 4 weeks at least in each month. So for the 4 weeks I will do 2,000 stitches on my 4, starting on the Monday, and then the rest of the week I can either work on my Red Christmas, so my new start, and then roll on my Whippopoly board. So that is my goal for that. But yeah, and we'll see how we get on. You know, in a couple of months I might be like, yeah, this isn't working, and be like, no thank you, and throw in the towel and do something else. But you know, that's part of the fun, is just going for it and seeing what happens. But yeah, so but yes, a bit of a life update that I'll probably put in at the end. It'll probably be the same life update that I've been trying to add in, like, to every video, the last 2 or 3, and then I keep deleting it. Partly because I'm like, oh, the video's too long, I'll just cut that out. And then partly because I'm like, I was getting into that stage where I was like, oh, no one cares. You know, why would I put this in? No one's going to care about this, and I would delete it out. And sort of, I need to try and get over that part, because maybe people don't care, and that's fine. But like, handing over that autonomy to you guys, so that if you don't want to watch it, you can just stop. Like, you can just stop the video. Like you can choose whether you want to watch or not. So sort of handing that decision back to you guys, that if you want to watch it, you can. And I'm not going to control what, you know, which parts of my video you do and don't see. So trying to put that in. But yes. So I'm going to flip over, do a close-up of this. We're going to go around, I'm going to show you what all the squares are, and then I'll come back, hop back on, just do a quick life update, and then that'll be it until the end of the month. So so yeah, here we go. Hello. So here we are with my Whippopoly board. So a bit of a closer up view that I'm hoping, especially being through the rear camera, you will actually be able to see what's on there. It won't be as blurry. So this is a combination board of the regular Monopoly, what is it, the Super add-on and the mini one? I can't remember. No, the Super add-on is the little one, and the Mega is the big one, and then the regular one. So I have made a couple of changes this year. First thing is I got rid of the taxi squares. So there was 4 squares around the edge of the board that were little taxis, and last year I had them listed as oh gosh, what was it, like speed run. So I would roll a dice for the number of hours to stitch, and then stitch that number of hours on whatever whip I rolled or had out or something. But because of the number of whips I've actually got that I wanted to put on, I found if I got rid of those squares, it meant I could put every other whip on here twice. So everything is on here twice, apart from, I believe, one. Yeah, so my bothy threads, because I have 2 bothy threads ones, so I put each of them just on there once, but everything else I'm pretty sure is on there twice. It's been a couple of weeks since I actually set this up. I'm sure that's the one. So, but anyway, here we go. So how I do my Whippopoly is I roll a dice, and then I move to that number of the dice, and then I stitch the number of stitches that I've rolled on the dice on the project that I land on. So if I was to roll an 8, I would do 800 stitches. If I was to roll a 10, I would do 1000, which is 1000, you know, and so on. So the least I would be able to do would be 200 if I rolled 2 ones, and the most would be 1200, which would be 2 6s, because I figured that, you know, any more than 1200 sometimes is a bit too much for me to do in one go. So whereas I figured, and then 200, it's probably a bit less. I don't think I've ever rolled to do a 200, but that's probably the least amount that I would be willing to get a whip out and work on. Anything less than that, and it's like it's not even worth getting it out. Like, so 200 is an acceptable amount of progress to do, I think. But anyway, so I have also community chest cards, I have bus ticket cards, and I have chance cards. So they're separate, and they're mainly based on the regular cards that you get in the game. But again, I've changed the amount of money to number of stitches. So if it was to pay £150 or $150 in tax, it would now be put 150 stitches into a certain whip. Advance to a certain square, go back a certain number of squares, you know, they're all the same. So go. If I land on or pass go, I get a 200 stitch discount on my next roll. So whenever I get to the next whip, I can take 200 off of the total of stitches. Income tax, I have to add 200 stitches onto my next one. This is a roll 3 square. So this one, you roll 3 dice, and if all the dice are different, I'll be adding 50 stitches to my next one. If I've got 2 matching, it's 200, and if all 3 dice match, I add 1,000 stitches to my next roll. Then we come around. Again, I've got my electric company. So these, instead of putting a particular whip on them, I've added a list. So I don't know if anyone that watched my whip parade remembers I had 3 sections and then everything else. So I had my salves, I had my samplers, and I had my full coverages. So then I pick any whip off of that section and I will stitch the required number of stitches on it if I land on the electric company. The stations, so these, if I land on a station, I have to add 500 stitches to any of my full coverage projects. Normally that's supposed to be in addition to whatever I rolled on. Sometimes I've forgotten to do that, but yeah, it would be whatever my roll was plus 500 onto whatever the full coverage of my choice. And then this is how you move between the lines. So if I passed it on an even, then I would swap lines, and if I passed it on an odd, I would continue on the same row. So we come round, we've got the jail and visiting. So if I'm in jail, I basically get stuck with the same project. So whatever I was working on before I landed in jail, I have to keep that project. And again, I do my rolls, and you have to roll a double in order to get out of jail. So if I roll a double, I will work whatever that number of stitches is, but then I'm out of jail. If I roll a not double, if I roll anything else that's not a double, then unfortunately I'm stuck in jail, and I will work that number of stitches on the project and then roll again. Obviously just visiting is, you know, a free space, so I would land on it and I would just roll again to the next spin. So coming round, again, we've got more maps. I don't know if anyone noticed, because I failed to mention it. I've actually renamed all of these streets into my projects. So it's got the actual project name and then the designer's name on all of these. So come along. So my waterworks. So this was my other whip list. So anything that's not, you know, a full coverage, a sal or a sampler is on my other list. Then we have a squeeze play. So this is, you roll 2 dice, and then you go by what the dice, you know, what the total number is. So if it's between 5 and a 9, I will add 50 stitches to my next one. If it's 3 or 4, add 100 stitches. A 10 or an 11, I add 150. And if my roll is a 2 or a 12, I will add 2,000 stitches, because obviously that's a very rare roll. And then again, we're coming along, got some more whips, another station. So all the stations are the same. So add 500 stitches to a full coverage. Stitching tax. So I've got to add a whole nother dice roll to whatever my current project is. So whatever I was working on prior to landing on that, I roll 1 more dice and have to work that number of stitches on it before I can roll again. Okay, so we're coming to the smaller roll now. Oh, let's turn around again. So we've got the go to jail square. Self-explanatory, you go to jail, and then you're in jail. So whatever whip I was working on prior to landing onto that, that's what I get stuck on. Coming over, we've got my telephone company, so that's the full coverage whip list. Subway, so if you get subway, I can travel to any street on my next turn. So I can pick any colour, you know, basically it would be any spot on the board really to travel to, but yeah, anyone. Then we come across here, same again, the stock exchange. So my next roll, I can basically swap out whatever I land on to any other project of my choice. Then I've got a tax refund, so I get to half my next stitch amount. So whatever I land on, you know, whatever my roll is, my next one, I can half the amount of stitches I have to do. The gas company, that's my samplers whip list. Then here I've got the tunnel, and the tunnel lets me, if I land in there, I pop out at this tunnel over here. And then the last run, all I've got on there is the reverse. So my next turn, I swap round and I start working in the other direction. But yeah, from then on until I've obviously land on it again, and then I'll be going back clockwise. But yeah, so the last round, which is the outside one. So this is the free parking square. So on here I get a free start, so I can start anything and I don't have to take the amount of stitches related to my banked stitches that I was mentioning earlier. So I don't have to take anything out of my bank stitches. I just get to start anything I want for free. So that's that one. Then we come along. This is my first bus. So a bus ticket, that is basically like the community chest and the chance. They're different tickets. A lot of these ones are movement ones. So go to a certain square, advance to a certain street, advance to anywhere on the street you're on, go forwards, go backwards a certain amount. That's all of those tickets. And then we keep coming across. We've got chance, cable company, so that's full coverage whip. The other end of the tunnel, which obviously comes out in the middle. So the auction square, so this is a friend's choice. So if I land on this, I'll have to be messaging a friend and get them to pick any whip for me that I've got. This is another, I can't remember what these ones are called. These type squares, you know, the electric company, the internet company, the waterworks. They're not conveniences, there is a word for them. Can't remember what it is. Jen, the caffeinated crafter, she knows what the word is because she said it in her video, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what they're called, and then promptly forgot. But anyway, this is my sales whip. A few more. We've got community chance, chance and community chest. And then we've got the payday square. So if I pass this or land on it on an even number, then I have to add 300 stitches to my next project. And if I pass it on an odd number, then I have to do 300 stitches on my last project. So whatever I was just coming from, I have to pull that out and do 300 more stitches on it before I can progress. Then we've got this one. You can sort of see some of these streets have 5 houses on. These are the ones where one of these squares was a taxi that I swapped out. So I basically just kind of copied and pasted the whole coloured square across. So community chest, trash collector, so another amenity, that's the word. See, I know I get it. So that's a sampler's whip. Another subway, so again that's travel to any street. Then we've got this one here, community chest, another bus ticket, another amenity, so that's a project for my others whip list. Then the birthday gift, so I get to reduce, take 100 stitches off of my next roll. Chance, and then back to the start. So that is a better overview. That, I hope the shine of the sellotape's not too much. I don't know how to, there we go. But yeah, so I hope that's a bit, a bit clearer on all my spots. I'm hoping it's quite easy. All makes sense. I think I've got everything in there. Like I said, this is my 4th year working on this same board. The only thing I've changed is the names on the squares. And then obviously I did my taxis this time round. But that's all I've ever changed off the board. So the rules have always been virtually the same right through all 4 years. But yeah, so nice and simple one. But yeah, I know, I know Jen is doing one. I know oh gosh, names have all gone out of my head. If I can remember by the time I've finished editing, I'll add the names in. But I know there's at least 3 other people that are using a Monopoly board. Siska Stitches, I know she is. I know there's at least one other person because I literally watched their video about 2 days ago, but I can't remember it. But anyway, lots of other people are doing it with varying different rules and extras and sort of side games and little bits. But yeah, so if you want to go and see obviously what they're doing, have a look. And yeah, but that is it. So that's what we got to. And yeah, I added it onto a bit of cardboard, just sort of duct taped the gap, just that I could fold it up and put it away, obviously in between rolls, and it would be a bit more sturdier for the rest of the year without me having to sort of blue tack it to a wall or unroll it, you know. But yeah, hopefully I can keep this one free of juice and wax, which my last year's one did somehow get covered in throughout its time. So hopefully having this on the board, it will be a bit more, looked after. But yeah, anyway, so that is my Monopoly board. Thank you. Okay, so that was my Monopoly board. So I hope that made sense. It probably makes as much sense to you guys as it does to me. So we're probably just going to go for it and see as we go along. And if we have to change things, we do. But hopefully we can get on with that. And so I've just noticed I've got spilled coffee or something down my jumper. I've got a tiny little brown patch. Honestly. Yes, hello again. You want to come back up? There we go. So quick life update. Oh, you didn't want to come up. You wanted to go up there. Okay. So quick life update. So and I mentioned in my last probably 3, 4, 5 videos on the trot, I'm like, I've not been very well this month, and it seems like I'm not very well at all. Every month it seems the same thing. But yeah, I haven't been great the last few months. So a few months ago, back in October, I had a stroke scare. So I sort of got up in the morning and I couldn't feel my whole left side. I thought I just slept funny. Just got up and cracked on. Thought, sometimes you kind of sleep a bit weird and you lose the feeling in your hand or something. It was like that, and I was like, oh, maybe I just slept with my neck twisted. I'm 30 something now, 33, 34, one of those. So I was like, I probably just slept funny. It's fine. I was like, I had a doctor's appointment first thing, so I was like, I haven't got time for this. I need to get ready, go to the doctors. Got to the doctors, and the doctor looked at me and she was like, you don't look so good. And I was like, oh yeah, it's fine. And she was like, no, really. She's like, you don't look so good. And she took my blood pressure. My blood pressure was 170 over 140. Anyone that's not familiar, an average or a kind of regular blood pressure is 120 over 80. And yes, mine was 170 over 140. And she was like, yeah, that's not good. And she was like, the way you're walking really odd as well. And I was like, oh, it's just because I can't feel my leg properly. It's fine. And she's like, no, it's not fine. She's like, you need to go to hospital. She's like, I'll call you an ambulance. I was like, no, don't come in ambulance. I'll go to hospital. Fine. I was like, can you write all that down in a letter and then I will print it up and I'll go to hospital and give it all in. Just because from practice, not from practice, from experience, I know that if I go to the hospital and I say something, they're like, are you sure? So that, if you can write it down, then I can hand that in and be like, my doctor said, da 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 da, and hand it in. So she went over. By the time I got to hospital, I'd pretty much lost the ability to walk. I couldn't actually physically make my legs go in a straight line. And yeah, and as soon as I got there, they're like, you don't look so good, we think you're having a stroke. I was like, I'm not having a stroke. They're like, well, you might not be, but because we think you are, we're going to treat it as if you are, because obviously it's quite serious, and we need to get that ruled out first. So we need to, see the strokes team, have a CT scan, have an MRI, and then we'll go from there. Okay, fine. Sent through. saw the stroke team, did a lot of tests, you know, where they're kind of like, you have to close your eyes and put your arms up so they can see if your arms are level, and then do the same with your legs, and then do the kind of, you know, touch the nose, touch the finger, all those sort of things. Can you drink? Can you eat? You know, they want to watch you eating and drinking so they can see if your mouth is drooping on one side. And they were like, yeah, they were like, it could be a stroke. They're like, it's not completely typical, but you're also not that old, so, you know, it's stuff. So, okay, fine, it could be a stroke. I'd also started to lose a bit of my coherence then as well, which I wasn't quite noticing, but they were picking that up. Like, I thought I was fine, but they were picking up that I was being very slow and slurry and sluggish. That, so I thought, okay, well, I probably need to ring home, you know, ring my mum, let her know, because they'd expected me to be out at the doctor's for like 10 minutes and then come home, and it's now been like 3 hours. So I rang up and was like, you know, I'm at the hospital, this is what I think's happening. Can you come? Can you bring me, you know, my lunchtime medication? Can you bring me some water? Can you bring me some catheters? Can you bring me, you know, because I expected to be home within half an hour. I didn't leave my house with anything apart from my phone and my keys, you know. So I have nothing with me. Can you bring? Okay, so come up. So waited there. So by now we were probably at about lunchtime, about 12. Once, but my doctor's appointment had been at 9 o'clock. So we were now about sort of between 12 and 1. Mum got there. Went down for my CT scan not long after, so that was about 2 o'clock. Went down for my CT scan, woke up. Back into minors, majors at A&E, and waited. And waited. And by then I'd sort of pretty much lost the use of my legs. I couldn't walk anymore. I was starting to lose the use of my arms as well. They were kind of not lifting quite as high as they should, and getting very pins and needly, very numb. So the doctor came around to see me and was like, your CT is clear, which means whatever it is, it's not a big bleed or a big issue, because the CT can only really spot big things. We need to wait for the MRI, because the MRI will spot the smaller stuff. So, okay, wait for the MRI. Doctor then got me to do a few different tests. One of them, he wanted to test my strength, left and right. So can I grip my fingers, can I lift my arm up and down? One of the things he wanted me to do was to push my shoulders up, do that. Problem was, he didn't ask me to do that. Instead, he put his hands on my shoulders and pushed my shoulders down. And I was like, oh, you need to push up. And because of my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, all he succeeded in doing was dislocating this shoulder. He just pushed it straight out the socket, which led to a bit of swearing on my part, because he wanted to try and put it back in himself, and I'm like, get the fuck off me, like, stop touching me. So then I could put it back in myself. Unfortunately, it happens a lot, so I'm very used to putting it back in myself, and I can do it very quickly. So I was like, stop touching me. Needless to say, he then didn't touch me anymore. He didn't get me to do any more tests after that, thankfully. I wouldn't have minded if he'd have pre-warned me and said, okay, I'm going to like push on your shoulders, and can you, because then I would have said, oh, well, be careful, because, but I got no warning. So I was very pissed off by then. And this is right, we need to send you for an MRI. So by now we were getting to about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I was like, okay, I was like, can I have something to eat, something to drink? Because I've not been able to eat all day. Coco was on the keyboard now, pressing buttons. That was, I don't know if you heard the computer dlinging. You know when you press too many keys and the computer gets confused and it just makes that dring. Coco, see, I told you, she's doing it on purpose. But yeah, so 5 o'clock came. They were like, oh yeah, you're allowed to eat now. Okay. So I had something to eat. I think I had some biscuits, just like, you know, ginger biscuits, cookies. You call them cookies in America? I don't know, but you know, little things. Had a couple of those, cup of tea. I was like, okay. My medication. By then we'd got to about sort of 7, 8 o'clock, and they come around to say, oh well, we can't do an MRI now because it's night time, so you've got to wait till tomorrow for an MRI. I was like, okay, so can I go home and come back? And they're like, no, you have to stay. I was like, great. I was like, well, I need my medication. I was hoping to be home in the day. You told me I was having a stroke and it was urgent. I assumed you would get it done sort of quite fast. So send mum home again. Get me a sort of, you know, change clothes, medication, everything else, bring it back. So yeah, I brought that back in, and then obviously she went home because, you know, she's got shit to do. So she wasn't allowed to stay with me, so she went home. And I was like, okay, well, if you're going to keep me in all night, do I get anywhere to lie down? I have a medical condition where my heart doesn't pump blood to my brain, so I have to lie down, you know, every several hours. I have to lay down to recalibrate my blood pressure. I'm like, oh no, there's no beds. I'm like, okay. I'm like, but I need to lie down. They're like, there's no beds. I'm like, that's great, but like, the thing is, if I don't lie down, I just pass out. So it's not really a choice for me. Like, I lie down, or my brain makes me lie down. So it got to 4 a.m. and they were like, oh, we've got a bed. I'm like, brilliant. So it wasn't a bed, it was just a chair. It was just another chair. I was like, it's not a bed. I'm like, the fact that it's in a bay where a bed used to be does not make it a bed. So basically they had us on a fit to sit ward. Despite the fact that I wasn't fit to sit, I couldn't walk. By then I had to be lifted into the chair because I had no use of my body from legs down. And yes, so they had two chairs where one bed used to be. So there was two of us in there. So at the time I didn't even know who was next to me because I was so out of it by then. So it was about 4 a.m. About an hour later, after me saying, no, I need to lie down, they had me sign something. Still to this day, I don't know what they made me sign. Literally no idea what it was. About 5 o'clock I passed out. Smashed my head into the floor. I literally just went straight down. Yeah, got a massive lump, came up on my forehead where I smashed it into the floor. So I think the bloke next to me sort of called the nurse because I couldn't. And they came back and they're like, you're not supposed to be on the floor. And I was just like, okay. So I'm like, okay, we can put it in your bed. I was like, oh, so now there's a bed. I'm like, okay, now that I've been saying I have to lie down or I'll pass out. Now that I've actually passed out, I suddenly get a bed. Okay. So yeah, they moved me, got me up into a bed. They let me stay there for about half an hour, and then they needed the bed for someone else. So they turfed me out of the bed. So I was then sat back up. At least I was coherent now because I'd been laid down, so at least I had blood supply back to my brain, which was nice. So the doctor came around in the morning, about 10 o'clock. I was like, okay, so when do I go for the MRI? Like, what MRI? I'm like, why do you think I'm here? Like, I'm supposed to be having this MRI. Oh, well, we'll have to speak to the doctor. I'm like, okay. They took my blood pressure. My blood pressure was about 160 over 130, 160 over 130. By then they'd given me some aspirin, I think is what they've given me. They call it a large dose of aspirin. I took that, so, you know, it come down a tiny bit, but not much. So then I had the consultant come round about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and was like, okay, yeah, we need to send you for an MRI. I'm like, yes, I know, it's what I've been waiting for. This is also why I've had no treatment. Like you said, I was supposed to have a large dose of aspirin. I said, and you bought me 1 tablet. And they're like, oh, that is a large dose. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, I'm prescribed, you know, for my migraines, I'm prescribed 1,500 milligrams, you know, 1,500. And yeah, and his face went white and he ran out. I was like, what the hell is going on? And he brought back a senior consultant for me to explain this to. And the senior consultant was like, oh yeah, that's standard treatment for migraines. And that basically this first guy had never heard of that before. And a regular dose of aspirin, he said, was about 50 milligrams. A large dose was 300, which is what they'd given me. The fact that I was taking 1,500, he'd never heard of before and thought I was about to like top myself. When I got the senior one, the senior was like, oh, that's normal. Oh, I was like, okay. So they're like, yeah, we need to send you for an MRI. 5:30 on the second day was when I got my MRI. Both MRI came back. I got the results at 11 p.m. the second day. So what's that? That is 39 hours later from seeing the doctor. So like 42 hours after my symptoms started, 39 hours after seeing the first doctor at my GP's practice, I actually got the results to say that no, it wasn't a stroke, so it was all okay. I'm like, well, I hope so, because I'm pretty sure if I was having a stroke, you're supposed to be a bit faster than 39 hours, and if it was a stroke, I'd probably be dead. So, you know, great. No, it's not a stroke. It's just a migraine. I'm like, what do you mean it's just a migraine? They're like, oh, it's you know, it's hemiplegic migraine. I'm like, no, I was already having hemiplegic migraines. They're nothing like this. And I described them to her, and she's like, oh no, they sound like thunderclap headaches. I'm like, oh great, okay. So she's like, yeah, you can go home. It's like, okay, fine. No follow-up treatment, no nothing, just bye. So she was like, you should get the feeling in your legs back in like a couple of weeks. I was like, okay. So I think she said a week. It took me a couple of weeks before I was actually stable enough to walk, and, you know, without bumping into everything, before I was able to actually get my legs to do the walking motion. So blood pressure still hasn't come down. My blood pressure at the minute is still about 155 over 105 as of this morning. So I'm due to see a cardiologist at the start of next month. That was the most urgent that I could get. That was an emergency appointment, because it's actually not even at a NHS facility, it's at a private hospital, but still funded by the NHS. But because they needed to get me in to see someone fast, the fastest way they could do it was to get me there, which is still, what, 4 months later? But yeah, waiting for that. I'm also waiting for a specialist appointment with the neurologist, a local neurologist, because I'm still having neurological issues, especially down my spine, which I've seen sort of physio and like MSK, and they're like, yeah, it's not a muscular issue, like it's neurological, you need to go see them. And she looked on my file and was like, oh yeah, well, you know, you should be having a follow-up anyway because you've got swelling on the brain. I'm like, I have what? She's like, yeah, you've got encephaly, you got swelling on the brain, like it says so on the results from your MRI. It also says that you've got a little like dead patch that they found in there. It's a T2 flare instability, I think is what she called it. I was like, oh. I was like, that's great. I was like, I don't have a follow-up with the neurologist. She was like, yeah, you probably need one of those. You should go get one. So I had to go to my GP and ask them to refer me to neurology. So I'm waiting for that referral too. But yeah, so that's great. So that explains why I've got headaches all the time. I'm having migraines 2-3 times a week now instead of like 2 or 3 times a month. Sometimes I can't feel my arms and legs for like no reason. But yeah, and also I'm not sleeping. Not that I'm not sleeping, I don't get tired anymore. So like, you know, you get to the end of the day and you're like, oh, I'm tired, I should go to bed. Like, I don't get that at all. Like, I get exhausted, you know, like if you force yourself to stay awake too long and then you're like really exhausted and you're like, I have to lie down because I'm gonna like, you know, pass out or whatever. Like, I get that still. But that's the normal like pre-syncope that I used to have because of my POTS. So it's like I basically stay awake until I pass out is where I am at the minute. Like, I can lie in bed and do all the things, you know, to try and make me sleep, but I can't actually go to sleep because I don't get tired, which is really confusing. And I don't know if that's anything to do with any of the brain swelling or the neurological issues, or if that's due to the blood pressure. When you get tired and you're getting ready for bed and your circadian rhythm kicks in and you're like getting sleepy, your blood pressure is supposed to start going down, your heart rate drops, your breathing rate drops, you know, to kind of indicate it's time to rest, it's time to sleep. So I don't know if it's because my blood pressure is so high all the time, I'm not getting that kind of indication that it's time to slow down. I don't know. I have no idea. Bones I can do, like the squishy stuff, like I have no idea how that works. So yeah, I've got nothing on that. So, you know, hopefully, I don't know if the cardiologist will be able to shed any light on that when I see her next month, or the neurologist whenever I see them, or neurosurgery when I go down to when I finally get the referral down to London. I don't know if they can do anything. So that's the dysautonomia clinic at the NHNN, National Hospital for Neurology and Neurosurgery, NHNN. It's around the back of Great Ormond Street. So, just in case anyone wondered where it was, that's where it is. But yeah, so whether the dysautonomia clinic will be able to help with that part, I don't know. But yeah, so we're just waiting and seeing. At the minute, yeah, so I'm on like 3 times the recommended dose of blood pressure tablets, which may or may not be helping. So I already said that. But yeah, so not sure what's going to happen with that. Not going back to the hospital. So I think I'm done with being at the hospital. Every time I go, all they seem to do is cause more problems. So, but yeah, I suppose we'll crack on. But yeah, so that's why my stitching's a bit slow, my video's a bit slow, and every time I come and do a video, I'm like, I'm not feeling very well. That's why. It's because. But anyway, so now you know. Coco's finally curled up in her little hammock, so she's finally settled herself down to go to sleep. She's obviously caused all the havoc that she can and has given up, tired herself out. So she's going to have a nap, and I am going to get stitching. But yeah, so I'm going to do a bit more of my Christmas piece. Maybe I might not be able to get the whole section finished, but I'm hoping to do that little the little square motif that was on it. But yeah. So thank you very much for watching, if indeed you still are. And yeah, I will hopefully see you again at the end of the month. But yeah, so I will see you soon. So I love you lots, and yeah, bye.